Hi, I'm Jamie Andreessen, a work-at-home mom passionate about helping entrepreneurs like you build a thriving laser business. Whether you're just starting out, looking to grow, or ready to scale your business, this podcast is for you. We'll dive deep into the world of lasers and other machine crafting equipment, cover topics like business strategies, mindset shifts, customer experience, and creative inspiration. I'll share my own experience navigating business with young kids, building a successful shop. Get ready to learn, grow, and have some fun. Welcome to Party with a Laser. Thank you so much for coming on. You are my first guest, which is really exciting.
Awesome.
Hello there, and welcome back to Party with a Laser, the podcast where we talk about all things laser, business, crafting, and creative entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Jamie, and today I've got a great guest that I'm so excited to introduce. Today we have Blake Sanborn with Outnumbered 521 and Great Lakes Laser Supplies. Blake, can you just introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, my name is Blake Sanborn. I'm the owner of Great Lakes Laser Supply. We started our business with earrings and ornaments. That's kind of what led us to a laser, and we started out with Outnumbered 5-1. We've just had an incredible journey. We're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and getting ready for the craft show season right now.
How did you get started into the laser and crafting industry?
That's a good question. Molly told me one day that she wanted to make wooden earrings and wanted to purchase a glow forge in order to make those earrings. And that got me diving into some research, looking for the best options for her to do so. And after really looking into it, I felt like there were some different options for us. I'm hands-on and a little bit mechanical, and I was willing to make the gamble on buying a laser straight from the manufacturer. So we bought one from a manufacturer in China, and it was an awesome journey. We saved some money by doing that way, but I definitely recommend being a little more handy and not scared to get your hands dirty doing some repairs and maintenance yourself. But Molly then dove into earrings and ornaments, and we started doing craft shows with those. She was very good with earrings. She was selling earrings by the hundreds of pairs to local boutiques, and we were just crushing it at craft shows. And that's really kind of the beginning, and that's where things started.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Now,
Yeah.
today we're going to dive into the heart of the conversation for today, which is testing new products on a budget, something that every small business owner wrestles with at some point. So, can you tell us, when launching a new product, what do you approach to keep the cost low while still testing the market's interest to see if a new product is going to work?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'll kind of answer the question from two perspectives, one being Outnumbered 5-1 and one with Great Lakes Laser Supply, because I really value our experience and kind of keeping that real world experience, that so we can kind of know where the market is at present day for our customers with Great Lakes Laser Supply. So from the perspective of Outnumbered 5-1, when we first got our laser, I was worried about spending a bunch of money on expensive materials to kind of test on. So I went out to a local cabinet shop and was able to get some wood scraps to really practice with. So the very first thing I ever lasered was almost 1 inch thick pine, and I made a wine caddy. It was, a very interesting first project, cutting, almost 1 inch pine, which I think most people don't even know that they could cut 1 inch pine, but it just takes some patience and practice. So getting your hands on, I think, free materials first off, just to get your laser dialed in. A lot of people are scared. I've talked to way too many people that it's been 6 months, 7 months, a year, and they've had their laser and they're just scared to fire it up. So go out there, find some free materials, and get hands on with your laser so that you can, then not be afraid to buy, a $15, $20 piece of wood that you're then going to make a final product out of. So that's where I would suggest starting. Get your hands on some substrates to practice with. And then, get out in the community, find out, some reputable suppliers to find some, wood or whatever your favorite substrate is going to be. We started with wood and then found ourselves leaning more towards an acrylic because you don't have some of that detail work or the painting and things like that. So we started with like wooden earrings, and then Molly started doing some acrylic earrings. Just gives you a lot of freedom, not quite as much finishing work, which I think is just a preference. Some people, really like getting hands-on and painting and things like that. And then some just want to buy the colors of acrylic, cut your pieces out and put something together. It's really just a preference. And figure out what substrate, you like to work with. And then you can also figure out what your customers are going to like. We grew our first customer base on Facebook Marketplace or with local friends. Molly was heavy in the schools. She was a teacher for many years, so she had a lot of connections at schools. So she used those contacts at local schools. She made earrings for promotions, for fundraisers and things like that. And she just had that easy in because of those relationships. So then she would find out what earrings people were interested in, what they liked, and then we would almost adapt some of those things to craft shows, find out what people liked. We didn't make, 100 pairs of anything. We would typically start with 5, 6, maybe 10 pairs max, figure out what people liked. Then we would, make more of that, larger quantities of those things. And really, for Great Lakes Laser Supply, it's really the same. I will order some sample, quantities. I'll order 20 or 100 of something, roll that out to our Facebook group and let them kind of see, hey, we've got these flashlights that came in. See what, order some, they can check them out, and then they give me feedback. I try to, for Great Lakes Laser Supply, I'll actually do like a coupon, kind of a promotion. Let's say they bought a blank for $10. Then when they gave me feedback, I would give them a $10 coupon. Just kind of encourage them to kind of give me some feedback on that product. That way they can test it, they can show it to their friends or their group of however they sell, and kind of almost pass that feedback on to me to help me as a supplier figure out what I should be investing in.
Oh, wow. That's so smart. Now, I got to ask, do you still have the wine caddy, your very first project?
I might, but it probably made it to the burn pile, to be honest.
I have several of those that have made it to the burn pile.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a process for determining whether to keep a new product idea with or is worth pursuing, or do you just kind of fill it out?
I do. Some of that process, like I said, I'll test something with Outnumber 5-1, getting that real world experience, even from colors. As an example, with the wallets that we carry, I don't carry every imaginable color that's available because I kind of made that mistake already without number 5-1. I had way too many color choices, and I figured out, okay, no one actually buys 3 different shades of gray. I only need to have one of those. So I've taken some of that experience and then applied it so that I figured out really customers prefer only like 3 choices. If you give them 12 choices, they're almost going to get a state of like paralyzed, or they can't even make a choice of what they like. So, for example, with hats, we've got this 7 foot hat wall that we fill with hats at a craft show that has examples of all of our different hat sayings that we make. And we carry, from a supplier standpoint, we carry 50 plus different colors and styles of leatherette, but I only do one. I have one type of leatherette on all of those hats on the hat wall, because when I started doing 3, 4, 5, 6 different colors, a customer would pick up a hat, and it's almost like they're looking for a reason to not make that purchase. So they would take that hat off the hat wall. Oh, you don't have this one in white? No, sorry. Oh, okay. Then they just kind of move on and don't make that purchase. So instead, once we started doing just rawhide on all of our hats on display, and then if someone really has their heart set on a different color, I'll do a custom, I'll make a custom product for them that we can either ship out, or if it's a multi-day show, we'll make and then bring back. But our sales went through the roof when we started reducing the choices in some cases, at a craft show like that.
That is a fantastic idea. That way people don't get analysis
Um,
paralysis.
yes,
Are there any common mistakes?
exactly.
Are there any common mistakes you see business owners making when testing new products?
I think it almost is somewhat the same thing, but from the business owner perspective. I think it's not perfecting a product through the whole sales process before moving on to the next product. I have got some things in the works that are going to be heavily focused on B2B for laser makers, focusing their laser business on other businesses. Kind of starting in this process is going to be metal business cards. Metal business cards, in my opinion, are a great place to start your laser business. It's going to teach you a lot. First off, you can make those metal business cards with your fiber laser, your CO2 laser, your diode laser, your CO2 galvo, your diode. You can literally engrave metal business cards with just about anything. And then I'd like to have people go to a networking event. I really like BNI, Business Networking International, very organized organization. But you can go and you meet these business owners, and if you pre-make some business cards for them, bring them to show them, you'll have a line of people wanting to order business cards from you. And going through that process, buying the metal business card blanks, figuring out how to make those blanks, be efficient at it, go to a networking event, sell those business cards to the other business owners. Finding success in that, or at least moderate success, teaches you so many different aspects of the business. A lot of times people, they see something fun or creative to make on Facebook. Oh, I want to do tumblers, or I want to do door hangers. And they make a couple door hangers. They sell a couple door hangers. They have a pile of them, going that's not selling. They do some tumblers, and they keep on moving on and hopping products before they find success in something. So I would definitely say the number one mistake, in my opinion, is moving on to a different product with that also typically is going to be a different sales market before you really dial the skill set in to sell that product.
That is some really great feedback because I've definitely done that before where I'll make something a couple of times. I'm like, it's not selling. Let's change it up.
Trust me, I'm speaking from experience.
Now, how do you collect feedback from customers to refine your products? Earlier, you mentioned that you would give a coupon to people to get feedback from them. Is there anything else that you've done?
Yeah, I've got some good ones. From the perspective of Outnumbered 5-1 at craft shows, I'm sure you're familiar with scrap. Do you ever have scrap or extra space when you're cutting something out of wood?
Oh, absolutely not, because I make sure to use every single piece. I will only throw it away if it has less than like a quarter of an inch.
Oh, okay. So we're very similar then.
Yeah.
So no matter if we're doing 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch, something out of wood, we are gonna, in every nook and
Hmm.
cranny, we are going to make stud earrings or an earring of some sort.
Yep.
And then we find a design that is somewhat unique and is kind of cool all by itself without any additional painting. And then we have a special rack. If it's a craft show and it's a little slower, I will go out into kind of the aisleway and I'll say, hey, you can come on in, pick out a free pair of stud earrings. So then people will start to come in and grab those stud earrings, and they'll buy an ornament, they'll buy a cutting board, and they're walking out of there and they're like, I don't know how you're giving away these stud earrings. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know how you're going to make any money, as they're walking out, having spent, 40, 50, $60. So I'd say for Outnumbered 5-1, that's a good way of kind of testing, but it also gets the customers in there and engaging in conversation. That's probably the number one way for Outnumbered 5-1, how we would really find out people's interests and even figure out things in the future. We had a multi-day show last year where someone came in and they were like, oh my gosh, what would be the best hat saying? Uh, we made that hat saying, brought it back the next day. They came, they bought one. We made like 10 of them, and we sold out of that hat saying. So I think, real world customer feedback is the best way to get that input on, maybe directions you should go, talking to the customer, figuring out what are they asking for, what are they looking for. And then for Great Lakes Laser Supply, it's kind of looking at trends. I would almost say Facebook marketing and advertising for mainstream products. How can I adapt those as a supplier to things that our laser customers can also make? That's kind of where our hat clips came from. We, wanted something unique that just what not everybody didn't have, but also something that also the customers haven't even heard of. So sometimes I'll talk to somebody and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I've never even heard of a hat clip." You know, my job from a marketing perspective, I'm making or trying to make a hat clip a thing, trying to make it something that's popular that people want and kind of almost creating that demand. We include those on our hats on our hat wall, and they get a lot of attention.
Have you ever used pre-orders or small batch releases to test these products beforehand before like going in bulk and after getting some of the feedback back?
Yeah, I'm actively doing that right now with NFC business cards. I've got customers that are testing NFC business cards from an engraving perspective. NFC business cards are unique because they also require some setup. So I wanted my laser customers to get hands-on, test out those features, and then give me some feedback. So that's a situation, right there that where we bought a smaller quantity, got them out there into people's hands to test. Um, and I'd say almost everything, unless I feel like something really, I've got a really good gut feeling, I would say I will always order a smaller quantity, talk to the community, see how they're feeling about it, and then I may or may not continue with that product.
Okay. Now, do you use social media to gauge interest before it, or do you do everything in person? Social media, how does social media play a role in it?
That's a really good question. We would not even be where we are right now with either of our companies if it wasn't for TikTok. And I would say the really unique perspective with TikTok is I was never with Outnumbered 5 to 1, I was never posting videos to sell something. I never said, "Hey, we make hat, buy a hat." I never. I tried listing some things on TikTok Shop, but it just really wasn't me. It wasn't. I was never really trying to sell things there. And the odd thing that happened through that process is I would get orders. People would call and say, "Hey, can you make this? Can you do this?" And we would do that. But our TikTok following actually transitioned from consumers to B2B, like laser customers. So as we pivoted from Outnumbered 5 to 1 to Great Lakes Laser Supply, we were able to cater to our TikTok following, which was, I think we're almost to 9,000 people now on TikTok that are primarily laser users. So that was pretty incredible. And
Oh,
then as Great Lakes Laser Supply, we have our Facebook group, which is just a great community of people like that are like-minded kind of business owners.
oh, wow, that's really cool. Now, I want to talk about like leveraging what you already have. What are some creative ways that small business owners can use what they already have to test new ideas?
I think the way I really want to talk about that point is what they already have is like the customer base that they're already embedded in. Um, I think that it kind of circles back to one of your other questions and my opinion there, but I think people will look for those different products to make and make those things. I like to take it even a step further back from products and reverse engineer it. What is the community that I'm already involved in? What are my hobbies? What's my day job? What are my kids in sports? I like to have conversations with business owners about those types of things before we even get into products because I believe if you start at that core, if you're a teacher like Molly was, and you've got teacher friends, you've got a natural base of people that need sports hearings, awards. You've got hundreds of options of products that you can sell to that natural group. Otherwise, you're finding most people find a product, and then now they're like, how the heck am I going to sell XYZ, whatever I'm making? Instead, where can you already sell it? Then pick your products based on what you can sell to your natural market. You think that makes sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. You're basically utilizing the resources that you already have.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And what trends are you currently seeing in the laser supplies and crafting industry?
I would say the number one trend is UV printing, adding that to your arsenal. And I'm seeing tons of creative ideas incorporating lasers and UV printers together. You can UV print on a substrate, put that in your laser. You could make UV printed earrings and then cut those out. There's endless options. So I would say UV printing is probably number one. There's a lot of new players coming into the game that are allowing business owners to add that to their arsenal at a very low entry point. And I think that'll be really exciting. Um, Other than that, I would say that was definitely number one for me. Other trends, I think just continuing to add other other things to their arsenal, like sandblasting. I think is something else that I think is pretty cool that people are doing. You can, put your a substrate into your laser, you cut the stencil with your laser, then you go over to your sandblaster and you kind of sandblast that. I think mixing the two pieces of equipment together, I think is really cool and really opens up the possibilities of what you can do.
Mhm. I would have to agree with you on both the UV printer and the sandblasting. I got a UV printer about 6 months ago, and it has totally changed everything about how I make everything with the laser. And the
That's
sandblaster,
awesome.
I've seen some really cool projects with that one.
I saw someone who did a full wrap on a growler with their sandblaster.
Oh, wow.
It was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was a octopus,
Hmm.
and so the tentacles went like all the way around the growler. It was so cool.
Oh, wow. Because with the growl or the sandblaster, you can mix it with the laser to cut your own stencils and customize it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
How do you stay ahead of industry trends and adjust your product lineup accordingly?
That is a really good question. It's definitely something I try to work on nonstop. If you look, go into some stores, for example, seasonally, you'll see major chains putting out the next season's things very early. Hobby Lobby, places like that. So you can kind of see some of the things that they're doing. And I think to get a step even ahead of that is looking at, larger suppliers. I think they're trying to stay ahead, and sometimes they're creating trends. I would say primarily I'm going with my gut instinct. Um, I don't think I talked about it a lot. Normally I feel like I talk about it too much, but our pivotal moment for Outnumbered 5-1, what brought us from like good to great, was when we transitioned from the earrings and ornaments to observing at craft shows that there was nothing there for gentlemen or for guys, quote unquote guy stuff, uh, belts, hat clips, hats, knives, ammo cans, all of those types of things, wallets. When we pivoted to those things, we 10x'd our sales at craft shows. And I think that's kind of probably a good example of kind of trying to stay ahead of the trend. It's a little bit different because it was a trend kind of at a craft show, but I think try to do the same thing and adapt that to other areas. And I think you can probably kind of do the same thing. Look at gaps almost, more than trends is kind of what I guess what we did.
Okay. What advice would you give to somebody just starting out and wanting to test products affordably?
That's a good question. I think you would be surprised how many things there are at the dollar store that are things that you can test on, whether we're talking about metal options, things that you can do with a CO2, a diode, a fiber, a UV laser. There's mirrors. And not only are these things that you can practice on, but they're things that you can, quadruple your money on by selling these things. Laser engraving a mirror, for example, people love buying mirrors, whether it's for a coaster or a gift. You can put in a personal saying on the back of a mirror, but there are tons of substrates you can get at the dollar store for very cheap, and kind of help to figure out, what are you good at and what can you naturally sell product wise. And then you could buy a higher quality mirror or larger quantities of mirror and get them, even cheaper potentially.
That is a fantastic answer. Before we wrap up, let's make sure people know where to find you. Where can listeners find you and learn more about Great Lake Laser Supplies and Outnumbered 5-1?
So our content engine is where we pump out a ton of content. It's definitely on TikTok. And on TikTok, we are Outnumbered 5-1, and then Great Lakes Laser Supply, and then our Facebook group. That is just an awesome place where I hope to have a group of like-minded people that are wanting to grow in business together. I was a very strange kid. My dream when I was in sixth grade was to be in business with friends, helping each other grow in our own businesses. And I feel in Great Lakes Laser Supply that kind of those childhood dreams are coming true. So definitely our Facebook group. I try to always make myself available to help. My passion is helping people. If you want to talk, go in there, post a question. I try to encourage everybody to help other people, and I feel like that helps them kind of grow themselves. So you've got our Facebook group, which is Great Lakes Laser Supply, and our website, greatlakeslasersupply.com.
Thank you, Blake, so much for being here today. I really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it was great seeing you at Next Level. And I hope to see you there again this year.
We will be there.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
If you're looking for more resources, head on over to partywiththelaser.com where you'll find show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, and so much more. If this episode was helpful for you, awesome. The greatest compliment I could receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on the podcast. Not only will this allow us to connect again on future episodes, it lets me know that I'm providing you with value, information, and helps other people find this content more easily. I'm truly appreciative of your support. Have a great day and see you next time.
BN. Have a great day. Bye-bye.